Let's have a quick talk about inverses. We've seen these before. They aren't too bad. You just got to know what to do. Otherwise, you'll be totally lost. When we're trying to find the inverse of a function, all we have to do is switch the x and y's and solve for y. That's it. Let's do an example. Find the inverse. Well, let's switch the x's and y's. And keep in mind, if this is written as f of x, that's our y. Okay, so even if that were an f of x, we'd still switch. We would have x equals y squared minus 1. I think in some of your homework problems, the y is an f of x. So don't freak out. You would still write it just like we have here. Now let's solve for y. So I've got to add 1. I get x plus 1 equals y squared. How do I get rid of a squared? Ooh, square root. Why do you think we're talking about this during radicals? Because radicals are square roots. We end up with y equals square root of x plus 1. But don't forget something very important, our plus or minus. When we square root both sides, we got to have plus or minus. And a negative 1 up top, like you're never going to stop, to denote that it is the inverse of the original function. Let's try this next one. Switch the x and y's. X equals y to the fourth plus 3. Subtract 3. X minus 3 equals y to the fourth. How do I get rid of something to the fourth? That's right, a fourth root. Who would have thought a fourth root would work? So we have y equals the fourth root of x minus 3, and don't forget your plus or minus. And our negative 1 on top of the y there to denote that it is the inverse of y. Last example. Once again, switch the x and y's. X equals y plus 1 cubed minus 2. Add the 2, we get x plus 2 equals y plus 1 cubed. Well, now we got a cube root. So I have y plus 1, I like writing this on the other side, equals the cube root of x plus 2. With cube roots or fifth roots or to the first power, any odd power, we don't need the plus or minus. Only comes into play with the even numbered powers. We're going to have y equals the cube root of x plus 2 minus 1. Now let's add the little negative 1 up here to denote that it's the inverse. So y to the negative 1 is the inverse of the original function. And we are donezo.